Is a Mojtaba-backed group now issuing a chilling warning to Donald Trump's key Middle Eastern ally, putting Saudi Arabia on notice that the Iran war's aftershocks are far from over? Are the Houthis erupting once again against Saudi Arabia after alleging a dramatic airspace showdown? And could this claim ignite a new flashpoint in the skies over Yemen? After the Iran war, are the Houthis now openly threatening Saudi Arabia on land and at sea, signaling that the conflict's next chapter may unfold along Riyadh's vulnerable borders? As the Houthis vow retaliation over what they call Saudi jets violating Yemeni airspace, is the region bracing for another cycle of tit-for-tat strikes and escalating threats? With fresh accusations and warnings flying, is Yemen about to become the next powder keg of the Middle East, where one misstep between Iran's allies and Saudi forces could spark a wider fire? Amid rapidly rising tensions, Mojtaba Khamenei's Houthi allies have warned Saudi Arabia against any new violation of Yemeni airspace, framing future incursions as a red line that will not be ignored. On July 3, the Houthis publicly accused Saudi Arabia of violating Yemen's national airspace, turning a single-flight incident into a fresh diplomatic and military confrontation. The group claims Saudi warplanes tried to block an Iranian civilian aircraft in mid-air, portraying the move as a dangerous act that crossed all acceptable boundaries. According to the Houthis, the aircraft was simply attempting to land at Sanaa International Airport, when Saudi jets allegedly moved in to obstruct its approach. Houthi media insist the aircraft ultimately landed safely in Sanaa before later returning to Tehran, using that outcome to claim both defiance and control over their own airspace.
This morning, Friday, at 5:20 a.m., a formation of Saudi enemy warplanes violated Yemeni airspace in an attempt to prevent an Iranian civilian aircraft carrying more than 200 stranded, wounded, and 6 citizens from landing at Sanaa International Airport, which is along with Yemen, has been under an unjust blockade for nearly 11 years. However, thanks be to Allah, their attempt failed through the interception of the warplanes by the Yemeni armed forces that thwarted this attempt by targeting the warplanes with a number of air defense missiles, forcing it to leave Yemeni airspace by the grace and power of Allah. Therefore, the Yemeni armed forces affirmed the following. First, we warn the criminal Saudi enemy against repeating any attempt to violate our airspace or any aggression targeting our country. Such actions will be met with a comprehensive response, targeting its airports and vital interests on land and sea. Second, we will not accept the continuation of the unjust Saudi American blockade on our country indefinitely, and we will take all legitimate steps to end this blockade. Third, we call upon our dear people to continue the general mobilization and combat readiness in response to the call of our leader, Syed Abdul Malik Badr al-Din al-Houthi. May Allah protect him. Fourthly, we affirm the readiness of the armed forces, in all their formations, for any options the leader may decide upon, and that their fingers on the trigger to implement directives aimed at breaking the Saudi American siege on our dear people and expelling the occupiers. Finally, we stress the necessity of ending the siege and the control over Sanaa International Airport. We commend and deeply appreciate the position of the Islamic Republic of Iran in taking the initiative to break the siege and transport the sick, the stranded, and the official and popular delegation participating in the funeral of the martyr, Syed Ali Khamenei. May Allah be pleased with him. We affirm the continuation of flights between Sanaa and Tehran airports, Allah's willing, to break the siege and alleviate the suffering of our dear, oppressed Yemeni people, whatever the consequences and repercussions.
This latest warning comes as both Houthi fighters and Saudi-aligned forces continue a wider mobilization across Yemen, fueling fears that a broader showdown may be just a step away. Houthi-aligned forces have announced a new phase of preparations, openly signaling that they expect the confrontation with rival factions to escalate. Yemen's parliament has backed Abdul Malik al-Houthi's call to expel Saudi-backed forces, giving political cover to a harder military line on the ground. Houthi-linked popular mobilization forces claim that hundreds of thousands of fighters are ready for the next phase, raising the stakes on every front line. Sources cited by regional media suggest these forces may now number close to 1 million fighters, a staggering figure for a country already on its knees. Armed displays have been staged across several Yemeni provinces, with convoys and parades used to show that the new mobilization is more than just rhetoric. Tribal alerts were declared in Amran, Al-Jaf, Haja, Damar and Sanaa, pulling powerful local networks into what looks like a widening war footing. Taken together, these developments signal that Yemen may be preparing for a major new military confrontation, with both political and tribal backing in place. At the same time, Saudi-backed tribal forces have begun their own large-scale mobilization, ensuring that the Houthis will not face an empty battlefield. Video from local outlets shows the Hadramaut tribal alliance gathering near Riyadh airport, a visible sign of pro-Saudi strength in Yemen's east. The exact purpose of this deployment has not been independently verified, adding uncertainty over whether it is a show of force or preparation for real combat. In Al-Jaf, tribal leader Sheikh Hamad al-Hazmi has announced a major mobilization of his followers, further thickening the patchwork of armed actors. This move follows his detention by Houthi authorities in a property dispute, turning a local grievance into a flashpoint with national implications. Reports indicate that both Houthi and Saudi-backed sides are now preparing for possible hostilities across multiple front lines, with positions being reinforced. Recent clashes in Ad-Dali have only fueled fears that Yemen is sliding back into full-scale civil war, with local skirmishes threatening to ignite a much wider fire. As tensions between Iran and the United States continue to intensify, Mujtaba Khamenei appears determined to hold his ground. Iran has reportedly safeguarded a substantial missile arsenal that the United States was ultimately unable to neutralize or seize. Tehran has repeatedly made it clear that there will be absolutely no compromise on its ballistic missile production program. According to Press TV, Iran's missile arsenal remains a sovereign national asset and the backbone of the country's defense strategy. Iran's missile and drone capabilities are widely seen as the factor that shifted the military balance against both the United States and Israel. It was this missile and drone deterrent that reportedly helped Tehran secure key breakthroughs during negotiations with Washington. Iran reportedly refused to accept any restrictions on either its ballistic missile or drone development programs. According to Press TV, Iranian negotiators described both programs as non-negotiable and beyond any scope for amendment during the talks. No limits, verification mechanisms, or so-called sunset clauses were reportedly accepted as part of the negotiations. Iranian negotiators also refused to let the country's missiles and drones become bargaining chips in discussions with the United States. On June 23, President Masoud Pezeshkian reiterated in Islamabad that Iran's missile program remains completely off-limits. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also surprised Washington by publicly highlighting what the Iran-US Memorandum of Understanding does not cover. Earlier, Donald Trump himself acknowledged that Tehran had retained its existing ballistic missile stockpile. The US president further stated that Iran could continue maintaining its missile arsenal as a legitimate means of self-defense.